The warning lights blinked red against the dark metal walls of the research station. Yeonji Park pressed her hand against the thick glass, watching the toxic atmosphere swirl outside like angry green smoke. Most scientists would have needed multiple layers of protective gear to survive here. She needed nothing. Her fingers traced the small scar on her left wrist, a reminder of her last experiment. 2 weeks ago, she had deliberately exposed herself to a chemical compound that would have killed an entire alien research team in milliseconds. It had left nothing more than a tiny mark on her skin, which had already healed completely. The research station hung suspended over a landscape that looked more like a nightmare than a planet. Sulfuric clouds twisted around rocky formations that looked like broken teeth. Temperatures outside fluctuated between freezing and boiling within minutes. Radiation levels would have fried most biological systems instantly, but not hers. Yeonji was a xenobiologist, but she was also her own most fascinating subject. Her body was a puzzle that she had spent years trying to understand. Where other scientists collected data, she collected scars. Where others used protective equipment, she used her own skin as a testing ground. Her latest research focused on understanding the limits of biological adaptation. The Interstellar Xenobiology Research Institute had sponsored her work, believing she might unlock secrets about survival in extreme environments. But deep down, Yeonji knew they were more interested in her than her research. She remembered the day they discovered her unique capabilities. A laboratory accident that should have killed her became her first major breakthrough. Toxic gases, extreme pressures, radiation levels that would make most planets uninhabitable. These were just normal working conditions for her. The computer screen flickered with data streams. Graphs and charts showed readings from her latest experiments. Numbers that would have been fatal to any other living creature were just basic measurements to her. She adjusted her glasses and smiled slightly. Another day, another impossible survival. Outside, the planet's surface continued its violent dance. Rocks shifted under immense pressural changes. Chemical reactions sparked and died in milliseconds. Clouds of toxic gases swirled like living things. And in the middle of this chaos, the research station remained, a tiny bubble of human determination. Yeonji understood loneliness better than most. Her condition made her different. Not just different from alien species, but different from humans too. She could survive where others would die in seconds. She could withstand environments that would crush advanced technological systems. Her colleagues respected her. Her supervisors were fascinated by her. But nobody truly understood her. Nobody could share her experiences of walking through environments that should have killed her instantly. She was unique, a biological marvel that defied every known scientific understanding. The communication system beeped. Another message from the Research Institute. They wanted more data, more experiments, more proof of her extraordinary capabilities. They saw her as a resource, a living laboratory. She saw herself as something else, an explorer of the impossible. She remembered her childhood. Other kids played safe games. She explored abandoned industrial sites. While they feared danger, she felt most alive in places others considered deadly. Her parents had been terrified. Medical experts had been confused. But she had always known she was different. Years of research had given her some answers. Her cellular structure could rapidly adapt to extreme conditions. Her immune system worked faster than any known biological system. Radiation, toxic chemicals, extreme temperatures, these were just minor inconveniences to her body. But answers always led to more questions. Why was she like this? Was she a genetic mutation, a result of some unknown evolutionary process, or something entirely different? The mystery of her own existence drove her forward, pushed her to explore more, to test more, to understand more. The station's main computer displayed her latest survival record. 36 hours in an environment that should have killed her in 36 seconds. Another data point, another proof of her extraordinary nature. Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Inside, Yeonji Park continued her relentless search for understanding. She was alone. She was unique. She was a mystery waiting to be solved. And she was just getting started. The sound came first, a high-pitched whine that cut through the station's usual hum of machinery. Yunji's head snapped up from her research notes. Her ears, more sensitive than most, picked up something most systems would have missed. Crash. The entire research station shuddered. Alarms blared. Red emergency lights began to pulse, painting the metal walls in waves of crimson. Something had just landed outside. Or more accurately, something had just crashed. Yunji moved quickly. Where other scientists would hesitate, she acted. Her hand touched a control panel, bringing up external cameras. The screens flickered to life, showing a scene of complete destruction. A spacecraft lay broken, its hull torn open like a tin can crushed by a giant hand. Most would have called for backup. Most would have waited for rescue teams. Yunji grabbed her emergency kit and headed for the airlock. The toxic atmosphere outside would kill any normal human in seconds. For her, it was just another walk. The outer door opened. Sulfuric clouds rolled in, thick and green. Rocks and chemical debris covered the ground. And there, in the middle of the destruction, lay a spacecraft that looked like it had been through a war. Steam rose from its broken sections. Sparks danced along torn metal. As she approached, something moved. A figure pulled itself from the wreckage. Blood covered his skin. Multiple wounds that would have killed most creatures were already beginning to close. He wore a damaged spacesuit, now mostly torn away. But he was alive. More than alive. He was moving. "Hey," the man called out. His voice was rough. "A little help would be nice." Yunji stopped. This was impossible. No one should be alive after a crash like this. Not in this environment. Not with those injuries. The man, a human, she realized, was doing something that defied every scientific understanding she had. He was trying to repair his ship. Using what looked like a piece of torn metal, he was welding a breach in the spacecraft's hull. More surprisingly, he was using his own blood as some kind of sealant. Where the blood touched the metal, it seemed to create a temporary seal, stopping the leak. "You shouldn't be alive," Yunji said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of scientific fact. The man looked up. His eyes were different. Sharp. Calculating. "Neither should you," he responded. "Not out here." His name was Jae-sung Kim. He was a deep space explorer, part of an experimental human exploration unit. As he explained his mission, Yunji realized he was just like her, but different. Where she studied survival, he lived it. "Our unit is designed for impossible missions," Jae-sung explained, continuing to work on his ship. "Planets that would kill normal humans. Environments beyond standard survival parameters." A piece of metal sparked as he worked. "We're not just explorers. We're adaptation specialists." Yunji watched in fascination. His body was healing faster than any medical technology she had ever seen. Wounds that would require weeks of treatment were closing in minutes. Radiation levels that surrounded them would have killed most life forms were simply absorbed by his body. The research station's computer systems began to analyze the incoming data. Biological readings that made no sense. Survival rates that broke every known scientific model. 2 humans. 1 crashed spacecraft. An environment that should have killed them both. But they were not just surviving. They were adapting. Jae-sung looked up, catching Yunji's intense gaze. "We're not monsters," he said, understanding the scientific curiosity in her eyes. "We're just different. Humanity's next step in evolution." Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Inside the broken spacecraft, 2 humans who shouldn't exist continued their impossible conversation. A scientist and an explorer, both proof that human potential was far beyond what anyone had imagined. And this was just the beginning. The research station's medical bay was unlike any medical facility in the known galaxy. Typical medical equipment would have been useless here. Jae-sung sat on a metal examination table, his wounds healing faster than the sensors could track. Yunji watched, her scientific mind racing with questions. How? She asked simply. It was more than a question. It was a challenge. Jae-sung smiled. Not a happy smile. More like someone who had carried a heavy secret for too long. Training, he said. Genetic modification. Survival programming. The story came out in pieces. Humanity had changed. Not overnight, but slowly. Space exploration had forced humans to adapt. Planets that seemed impossible to survive became testing grounds. Where other species saw death, humans saw a challenge. Jae-sung's unit was special. They were not just soldiers or explorers. They were living experiments. Each member had been carefully selected, genetically modified, and trained to survive in conditions that would kill most life forms. Their bodies were more than biological systems. They were advanced survival machines. We started small, Jae-sung explained. His fingers traced a scar that was already fading. Radiation resistance, cellular regeneration, toxin processing. Each mission pushed our limits. Imji understood. Her own body was proof of similar adaptation. But where she had been a natural occurrence, Jae-sung represented intentional design. Humanity choosing to evolve. The station's computer began to compile their biological data. Numbers scrolled faster than most systems could process. Radiation absorption rates, cellular regeneration speeds, toxin neutralization capabilities. Each reading was beyond anything previously recorded. Your body, Jae-sung said, looking at Eunji. It's different. Natural. Not engineered like mine. She nodded. Her entire life had been a mystery. Medical experts had been confused. Her parents had been terrified. She was a biological anomaly. A human who could survive where others would die instantly. Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted. Radiation levels spiked. Temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside the station, two extraordinary humans explored the limits of their shared capabilities. Jae-sung pulled out a small device. It looked like a medical scanner, but different, more advanced. Our unit developed this, he explained. It can map biological adaptation in real time. The device hummed. Lights flickered. Data began to form. Not just numbers, but a complete picture of biological potential. Eunji watched, fascinated. This was more than medical technology. This was a window into human potential. Their conversation wasn't just about survival. It was about understanding. Where other species saw limitations, they saw opportunities. The toxic planet outside was not a threat. It was a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved. We're not just surviving, Jae-sung said. We're learning, adapting, growing. Eunji thought about her years of research. Lonely years spent documenting her unique abilities. Years of feeling different, isolated. Now, she wasn't alone anymore. The station's communication system beeped. A message from the Interstellar Research Institute. They wanted data, more information, more proof of these extraordinary capabilities. Jae-sung looked at the message and laughed. A short, sharp sound that was more about survival than humor. They always want more, he said. Eunji understood. Her entire career had been about proving her worth, showing that her unique abilities were more than just a medical curiosity. They were a glimpse into human potential. Their bodies told a story of adaptation, of survival, of a species that refused to be limited by biological constraints. The toxic planet outside continued its violent dance. Inside the research station, two humans who shouldn't exist continued their impossible conversation. Humanity was changing, and they were living proof. The holographic display flickered to life. Alien star charts, biological data, and complex graphs surrounded Eunji and Jae-sung. They were no longer just survivors. They were becoming something more. Deathworlds, Jae-sung said, pointing to a series of planetary maps. That's what other species call planets too dangerous for life. Eunji understood. These were worlds with conditions that would kill most living things: extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, massive radiation, crushing pressures, planets that seemed impossible to survive. To humans, these were just another challenge. The holographic display showed comparison charts. Most species had tiny survival zones, narrow bands of temperature and condition where they could exist. Humans, their survival range was massive, almost unbelievable. "Look," Jae-sung said, zooming into a specific planet. "Volcanic surface, atmosphere full of poisonous gases, radiation levels that would destroy most technological systems. Other species see death. We see an opportunity." Their research was changing everything. Humans weren't just another species in the galactic ecosystem. They were something different, something unexpected. The station's computer processed their data. Numbers flew across screens, biological readings that made no sense to standard scientific models. 2 humans, 1 impossible planet. Survival rates that broke every known rule. Yoonji pulled up her own research, years of personal experiments, documented cases of her surviving conditions that should have killed her instantly. Jae-sung's military records showed similar impossible survival stories. "We're not special," Jae-sung said. "We're just human." But they both knew that was not true. Humans were something more. A species that didn't just survive. A species that adapted, changed, grew. The communication system beeped. A message from the Galactic Confederation. They wanted a meeting. Their research had caught attention. Not just scientific attention. Something bigger. Alien species had a name for planets too dangerous for life. Deathworlds, planets that killed, destroyed, eliminated any possibility of survival. Humans saw these same planets and fought. Challenge accepted. Jae-sung showed more data. Human exploration units had survived on planets that would have killed entire alien civilizations. Not just survived, thrived, explored, learned. Their bodies were more than biological systems. They were living technological marvels. Radiation, just another environmental condition. Toxic atmosphere, another breathing challenge. Extreme temperatures, just another day at the office. Yoonji thought about her childhood. Other kids played safe games. She explored abandoned industrial sites. While they feared danger, she felt most alive in places others considered deadly. The holographic display continued to show planetary data. Each chart, each graph told a story. A story of a species that refused to be limited. A species that saw challenges as opportunities. Most species, Jae-sung explained, have very narrow survival ranges. Humans, we create our own survival. Their conversation was more than scientific discussion. It was a revelation. Humans were not just another species in the galactic ecosystem. They were something different, something unexpected. The station's systems continued to process their data. Biological readings, survival statistics, adaptation capabilities. Each number told a story of human potential. Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted, radiation levels spiked, temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside the research station, 2 humans who shouldn't exist continued to explore the limits of their capabilities. Humanity was changing, and they were living proof. The Galactic Confederation wanted a meeting. They would soon learn that humans were not just another species. They were a force of nature. The communication room hummed with strange energy. Holographic images of alien representatives flickered around Yoonji and Jae-sung. These were not friendly faces. These were faces of confusion, fear, misunderstanding. The Galactic Confederation's lead representative, a tall blue-skinned creature with multiple eyes, looked uncomfortable. Its translator device clicked and whirred, struggling to process human language. "Explain," it said. Not a request. A demand. Jae-sung stepped forward. His posture was calm. Too calm. Like someone who had faced impossible challenges before. "We are humans," he said simply. We adapt. The alien representatives exchanged looks. Looks that said they did not understand, could not understand. Yunji brought up the data, planetary survival charts, biological adaptation graphs, radiation resistance numbers. Each chart told a story that seemed impossible to most species. Your species has been classified as a potential threat, another representative said. Its voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. Unpredictable. Dangerous. Jae-sung almost laughed. We're not a threat, he explained. We're survivors. The station's computer continued to process data. Numbers flew across screens. Biological readings that made no sense to standard scientific models. 2 humans. Countless impossible survival scenarios. The alien representatives had files. Hundreds of files documenting human encounters. Each file told a strange story. Humans surviving where other species would have died instantly. A planet with acid rain. Humans explored it. A world with crushing pressures. Humans built cities. An environment with toxic atmosphere. Humans found a way to breathe. You do not follow rules, the blue-skinned representative said. Other species have clear limits, clear boundaries. You change everything. Eunji understood their fear. Humans were not just another species. They were something different, something unexpected. The holographic display showed planetary maps. Most species had tiny survival zones, narrow bands of temperature and condition where they could exist. Humans, their survival range was massive, almost unbelievable. We are not trying to be a threat, Yunji said. Her voice was calm, scientific. We are trying to understand, to explore, to learn. The alien representatives looked at each other. Communication happened in quick glances, subtle movements, languages beyond human understanding. Jae-sung's military training showed in every movement. Calm, calculated, ready for anything. We are not conquerors, he explained. We are explorers. But the Galactic Confederation was not convinced. Humans were an unknown factor, a species that did not follow expected patterns, a species that changed the rules. The communication system continued to process data, survival statistics, adaptation capabilities. Each number told a story of human potential. Outside the station, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted. Radiation levels spiked. Temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside, 2 humans faced an entire galactic governing body. Not with weapons, not with threats, but with data, with understanding, with the simple truth of human potential. We are different, Jae-sung said, but we are not a threat. The alien representatives continued to watch, to analyze, to try to understand. Humanity was changing, and these 2 humans were living proof. The Galactic Confederation would have to choose, understand, or fear. The choice was theirs. The workshop was chaos. Broken pieces of technology covered every surface. Jae-sung's hands moved quickly, transforming destroyed equipment into something new, something impossible. Yunji watched, fascinated. This was more than repair. This was creation. A damaged communication device lay in pieces. Most would have thrown it away. Jae-sung saw an opportunity. His fingers worked fast. A piece from a broken radiation shield. A circuit board from an old sensor. A tiny component pulled from his own medical kit. Minutes later, the device hummed to life. Stronger than before. Able to work in conditions that would have destroyed standard technology. We don't just survive, Jae-sung explained. We improve. The research station's computer began analyzing the repaired device. Numbers flashed. Capability charts expanded. The rebuilt communication system now worked in environments that would have fried most technological systems. Yunji brought her own research. Years of studying extreme environments. Biological adaptation data. Survival strategies. Jae-sung's engineering skills transformed her scientific understanding into practical solutions. A broken environmental suit became something new. Layers of biological data, engineering precision, material science pushed beyond known limits. Where other species saw a destroyed piece of equipment, they saw a chance to create something better. Technology is just another form of adaptation, Jae-sung said. His hands continued to work, transforming, creating, improving. The station's walls were covered with previous experiments. Devices rebuilt, systems improved. Each piece told a story of human potential, not just survival, evolution. Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted, radiation levels spiked, temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside, two humans were rewriting the rules of technological possibility. Eunji's scientific data merged with Jae-sung's engineering skills. They were more than individual experts. They were a system, a living, breathing example of human potential. A damaged navigation computer became their next project. Most species would have replaced it completely. Jae-sung saw something different. Potential. Opportunity. His fingers moved like they were playing a complex musical instrument. Pulling. Connecting. Rebuilding. The computer systems came back to life. Stronger. Faster. More adaptable. We learn, he explained. We change. We grow. The Galactic Confederation's earlier fears seemed distant now. This was not about destruction. This was about understanding, improvement, evolution. Eunji documented everything. Each repair, each improvement. Scientific data merged with practical engineering. Their work was more than an experiment. It was a statement. Humans were not just another species. They were problem solvers, adapters, creators. The communication system beeped. A message from their research institute. They wanted more data, more proof of these extraordinary capabilities. Jae-sung looked at the message and smiled. A smile that said they would do more than provide data. They would change understanding. Their workshop continued to hum with energy. Broken devices became new creations. Impossible became possible. Limitations became opportunities. Outside, the toxic planet continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted. Radiation levels spiked. Temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside, two humans were rewriting the rules of technological possibility. Humanity was changing. And they were living proof. Technology was not just a tool. It was another form of survival, another way to adapt, to grow, to become something more. The research facility buzzed with tension. Alien scientists from different star systems filled the massive conference room. They looked at Eunji and Jae-sung like they were something impossible, something that should not exist. A tall researcher from a silicon-based civilization spoke first. Its voice sounded like glass breaking. "Explain your survival mechanisms," it demanded. Jae-sung stepped forward. Calm. Confident. "We adapt," he said simply. The alien researchers had hundreds of files. Documented human encounters that made no sense to their understanding. Planets too dangerous for life. Environments that should have killed everything instantly. Eunji brought up the data. Planetary survival charts. Biological adaptation graphs. Radiation resistance numbers. Each chart told a story that seemed impossible to most species. "Your species breaks every known biological rule," another researcher said. "Its tentacles move nervously. You survive where logic says you should die." Jae-sung almost smiled. Logic is just a limitation waiting to be broken. The holographic displays showed comparison charts. Most species had tiny survival zones, narrow bands of temperature and condition where they could exist. Humans, their survival range was massive, almost unbelievable. One researcher, a crystalline being that looked like living light, asked a simple question. How? Eunji understood their confusion. Humans were not just another species. They were something different, something unexpected. "We don't just survive," she explained. "We learn. We change. We grow. The research facility's computer systems processed their data. Numbers flew across screens, biological readings that made no sense to standard scientific models. 2 humans, countless impossible survival scenarios. A researcher from a gas-based civilization spoke. Its voice sounded like wind through hollow pipes. Your ability to survive is not natural, it said. It cannot be explained by standard evolutionary models. Jae-sung's military training showed in every movement. Calm, calculated, ready for anything. We are not trying to break rules, he said. We are trying to understand them. The alien researchers shared quick looks. Communication happening in subtle movements, languages beyond human understanding. They had files. So many files. Humans surviving where other species would have died instantly. A planet with acid rain. Humans explored it. A world with crushing pressures. Humans built cities. An environment with toxic atmosphere. Humans found a way to breathe. We are explorers, Yunji said. Her voice was scientific, calm, not conquerors. The holographic display continued to show planetary maps, survival statistics, adaptation capabilities. Each number told a story of human potential. Outside the research facility, the world continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted, radiation levels spiked, temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside, 2 humans faced a room full of alien researchers, not with weapons, not with threats, but with data, with understanding, with the simple truth of human potential. Most species see limits, Jae-sung explained. We see challenges. The alien researchers continued to analyze, to try to understand. Humans were an unknown factor, a species that did not follow expected patterns, a species that changed the rules. One researcher, a being that looked like living water, asked the most important question. Why? Yoonji and Jae-sung looked at each other, a look that said more than words could explain. Because we can, Jae-sung said simply. Humanity was changing. These 2 humans were living proof. The choice was clear. Understand, or be left behind. The research center was quiet, but it was not a peaceful quiet. It was the quiet of something big about to happen. Yoonji and Jae-sung stood in the main presentation hall. Screens behind them showed hundreds of planetary maps, survival charts, biological data. Each image told a story of human potential. Alien researchers from across the galaxy watched, some with fear, some with curiosity, some with a mix of both. Humans are not special, Jae-sung began. We are just different. The screens changed. Images of humans surviving impossible conditions, exploring planets that would kill most life forms, adapting, growing, changing. Yoonji spoke next. Her voice was calm, scientific. We do not see limits. We see challenges. More images appeared. Humans building cities in extreme environments, creating technology that worked where other systems failed, surviving where survival seemed impossible. The lead researcher, a being that looked like living crystal, asked a question. Why? Jae-sung smiled. Not a happy smile. A smile that said he understood something bigger. Because that is what life does, he explained. It adapts. It grows. It changes. The research center's computer systems processed their presentation. Numbers flew across screens, biological readings that made no sense to standard scientific models. One alien researcher spoke. Its voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. Your species breaks every known rule of survival. Yoonji nodded. Rules are just current understanding, she said, waiting to be changed. More images appeared. Humans in environments that should have killed them instantly. Toxic planets, radiation zones, worlds with impossible conditions. Most species had tiny survival zones, narrow bands of temperature and condition where they could exist. Humans, their survival range was massive, almost unbelievable. We are not trying to be different, Jae-sung explained. We are just trying to understand. The alien researchers shared quick looks. Communication happening in subtle movements, languages beyond human understanding. Outside the research center, the world continued its violent dance. Chemical storms twisted. Radiation levels spiked. Temperatures changed in milliseconds. Inside, two humans were rewriting understanding of life itself. More data appeared. Comparative charts showing human adaptation capabilities. Where other species saw death, humans saw opportunity. Where other civilizations would stop, humans would push forward. Survival is not about being the strongest, Yunji said. It is about being the most adaptable. The screen showed human exploration missions, damaged ships repaired with impossible solutions, technological systems rebuilt in extreme conditions, survival strategies that broke every known rule. One researcher, a being that looked like living water, asked a simple question. How? Jae-sung's answer was simple. We learn. We change. We grow. The presentation continued. More data. More evidence of human potential. Not just survival. Evolution. Humanity was more than a species. It was a concept. An idea. A way of facing challenges. The alien researchers continued to watch, to analyze, to try to understand. We are not a threat, Jae-sung said. We are an opportunity. The research center hummed with energy, possibility, understanding. Humanity was changing. And these two humans were living proof. The universe would never be the same. The final meeting was different. No more presentations, no more data charts, just two humans, and the entire Galactic Confederation. Eun-ji and Jae-sung stood at the center of a massive circular room. Alien representatives surrounded them, watching, waiting, wondering. We are not here to convince you, Jae-sung said simply. We are here to understand. The room was silent, a silence that felt heavy, important. Outside, the universe continued its endless dance. Planets spun, stars burned, galaxies moved, and humans watched, explored, adapted. Yunji stepped forward, her movements calm, calculated. Survival is not about fighting, she explained. It is about learning. The alien representatives listened, some with fear, some with respect, some with a mix of both. Memories played out in the room. Holographic images of human exploration, impossible missions, survival in conditions that should have killed everything. A planet with acid rain. Explored. A world with crushing pressures. Colonized. An environment with toxic atmosphere. Transformed. We are not conquerors, Jae-sung said. We are explorers. The room's massive screen showed human history, not a history of destruction. A history of adaptation, of change, of growth. Most species saw limits. Humans saw challenges. One alien representative, a being that looked like living light, asked a final question. What drives you? Eun-ji's answer was simple. Curiosity, she said. The desire to understand. The universe was big, massive, full of impossible things. Humans saw this as an invitation, not a warning. Jae-sung's military training showed in his stance. Calm, ready, prepared for anything. We do not seek to replace, he explained. We seek to understand. The alien representatives shared looks. Communication happening in ways beyond human understanding. Subtle movements. Silent conversations. Humanity was more than a species. It was an idea, a way of facing the unknown. The room's computer systems processed their final presentation, not with numbers, not with charts, but with something deeper. Understanding. We are different, Yunji said, but we are not alone. More images appeared, humans working with other species, solving problems, creating solutions, building bridges between civilizations. The universe was not a battlefield. It was a classroom, an opportunity to learn, to grow, to change. Outside, stars continued to burn. Planets spun in their endless dance. Galaxies moved through infinite space. Inside this room, two humans represented something bigger, something more important. The potential of life itself. Jae Sung's final words echoed through the room. "We are not here to change the universe," he said. "We are here to understand it." The alien representatives continued to watch, to analyze, to consider. Humanity was changing. These two humans were living proof. The universe would never be the same. And that was the point. Asterisk, the end asterisk.